I could totally cry right now, guys. I've been filming for like 20 minutes now and it was going so well and I just realized my mic was not on. I knew the day was gonna come when I would forget to flip that stupid switch. Hi guys, hello, welcome to my channel. I am so excited for today's video because today we're gonna be Today we're gonna be talking about toxic book traits. A couple of days ago, I asked you guys on Instagram and on the community tab for your toxic book traits, and it has been so hard to not respond to them, but I have agreed with too many. But then also there's just been some wild ones that I've not been able to help but respond because I just am like, oh my gosh. So I need to film this video ASAP so I don't combust from not being able to respond to you guys. So anyway, without further ado, let's go ahead and get into our toxic book traits. Because we are gonna kick off this video, I'm gonna kind of like throw myself under the bus first. And I'm gonna tell you guys about a couple of my toxic book traits. And the first one is probably the one that I do the most. Essentially buying books purely for their cover / judging books by their cover. I know that's like the biggest quote in the world is to not judge a book by its cover, but like, I can't help it. I can't help myself. And also too, to kind of defend the action. That is what book covers are there for. It's there to kind of grab your attention, give you a first impression of like what the book might be about if you're gonna be interested in it. So I feel like it's fair. However, it does become a problem / toxic when I start buying books purely for the covers, knowing full well I most likely am not gonna enjoy that book. Unfortunately for me, my favorite covers, the ones that I am drawn to the most, are my least favorite genre of book, which if you've been here a while, you probably know what that is, which is essentially literary fiction. I read to escape. I don't want to think about real life. I want to just be lost in my fluffy fantasy romances. I want to think about fairy kings and meet cutes, you know what I mean? Like that's what I want my downtime to be about. Not about things that remind me too much about real life. So lit fic has just consistently not really worked for me, but it does have like just the coolest covers, like works of art. The second one is definitely the one that's probably the most blaring to me, the one that I think about the most. I was literally just having like a crisis about it a couple of days ago, which is basically buying books or collecting books with absolutely zero intention of ever reading them more than once. I don't know why this bothers me so much, but it does. It typically takes me like a day or two to read a book, especially when I was younger, so it just never has made sense for me to purchase books. For example, my mom got me a book for Christmas one year, and I literally had finished it before the day was over. So I was just like, don't buy me books anymore because there's literally no point. It was kind of like I got this present and then it was over, you know? So I have never seen the point in buying books personally until literally like a few months before I started this channel. I've always been a reader, but then there was like a big gap where I didn't read and then I got obsessed with it again, and now I am obsessed. Like it is the thing that I think about the most, which is honestly one of the reasons I started this channel. I wanted kind of like an excuse in my brain to buy books, and also too obviously I wanted like the community of talking about books and things like that. But like, yeah, financially, it's very hard for me to justify buying books. You would never know because of the amount of books that I do buy. But like every once in a while, like maybe once a month or so, I like look at my shelves and like the piles of books everywhere in this room, and I'm just like, what are you doing? Like, is it really financially responsible for you to be buying these books, knowing full well you will never read them more than one time? The answer is no. It's always no. But I kind of justify it with just like the emotional boost it gives me. Like it makes me so happy to come in this room, look at my bookshelves. I do spend the majority of like my life right now in this room, and I look at these books and these shelves constantly. So it does make me happy to look at them, and it makes me happy to talk about them to you guys. My dog is sleeping outside of the room, like outside the door, and he is having a dream. I can hear him like crying. Moop. Anyway, those are my little toxic traits that I could think of off the top of my head. Now let's get into yours. And again, I did ask you guys on Instagram and my community tab, and we're gonna go over the Instagram ones first because there's only a few of those ones, which by the way, if you're not following me on Instagram, you totally should. I haven't been the most consistent with posting on there, but I've got like a schedule. I want to be better at it. I want to start not only posting like shorts content and more pictures and things like that, but I also just want to be more active on stories and doing like polls and things like that. Get you guys more involved in the videos because this honestly is like my favorite thing, and I just love you guys and appreciate you guys so much. So anyway, let's go ahead and go through our few Instagram responses. So the first couple of ones I have are actually from my sister, and literally we are two freaking damn peas in a pod. Her first one was reading nothing for weeks and then reading 5 books within 2 days, no in between. Same. I'm pretty consistent with like always reading something in general, but there are definitely weeks where, like the week that I'm in currently, where I've been reading the same book, I feel like, for so long. Which, if you're curious, the book that I'm currently reading is House Across the Lake. I'm enjoying it, and I want to know what happens at the end, because I feel like the ending is what people really talk about with that book. Like, they say it was like unexpected and stuff or something, so I want to know how it ends. But everything leading up to that so far has been kind of like, I don't know. It hasn't like grabbed me. I'm not like in it yet. So anyway, on the flip side of that, I also have weeks where I just feel like I'm flying through book after book after book after book. And I have a good example of that previous to House Across the Lake. Like a week or two before that, I had started the Ice Planet Barbarian series, and in comparison, House Across the Lake, so far I've been reading it for 3 to 4 days. I'm halfway through. Ice Planet Barbarians, I read like the first 4 books within 2 days. Like, I just could not stop. And there literally isn't any in between. It's either blowing through books or I'm just like slugging it through one. And then the other one that she said is buying books just for them to sit on my shelf for a year before I actually read them. And there's actually another comment very similar to this one from the community tab, and it says, mine is pre-ordering books I'm excited for and then not reading them until the next year or more. I don't always do this, but I definitely shouldn't pre-order if I'm not going to read it right away, unless it's one of my favorite authors and I just want to support them. Literally same. I feel like I'm gonna be saying that so much in this video, just like same. I don't pre-order books very often, but I do on occasion, and usually it is because I just want to support the author, or because it has a really cool cover that's going to be like limited to just that first release, and I want to make sure that I get it. And I will say that those books, whenever I get them in, or when I go to a bookstore specifically for a new release, or I buy a book on Amazon like the day that it's released, those books inevitably do, always, without a shadow of a doubt, end up on my shelves just sitting there for at least a couple of months. Like, I don't know what it is about us that we need to like have the book as soon as it's out, but then it just like sits there. Another one that I got was actually from an author friend who is releasing a book very soon. Here is the book and here is the author. Go check her out. But she says, I buy the whole series before reading the first book, and this is actually something that I have actively implemented to stop doing. I actually just made a whole page on Notion of all of the series that I'm currently in the middle of, and it was definitely a wake-up call. I have columns for like series that I own that I haven't started, series that I have started that I have a book of that I still need to read, and then ones that I'm like caught up on but they're still being made, and then another one where it's just like the series is done. And again, that was the biggest wake-up call, because there is not a single series that I own that I have finished. There's plenty of books where I just need to read one and it would be finished, but I have not finished a single one yet. And then the list of ones that I own at least one book of that I have not even started is crazy. So yeah, we've made a rule for ourselves. I cannot buy or like start a new series unless I've read that first book. And then the last one that we have for Instagram says, stops reading to have thoughts about what's going on instead of just reading about it. And this one literally made me lol, because I've definitely done this on several occasions. Like, I'll be reading a book and something crazy happens, so I'll literally stop reading the book, run into the other room, and just like vent about it to Kevin and like come up with a bunch of theories and just be like, how could he do this? Why would they do this? And obviously he knows zero of what's going on. And then I end up just like standing there in silence, and I'm like, okay, I guess I'll get back to my book now. I mean, it's not a TV show. I don't have to wait another week for the next episode. Like, I can just keep reading, you know? So yeah, I've definitely done this on several occasions. Now let's get into all of the toxic traits that you guys sent me from the community tab. And we're gonna go ahead and start off with the ones like involving purchasing. That's kind of the only way that I organize these. Everything else is just kind of like random things. The first one that we have says, me on a book buying ban. Also me, reading one quote or seeing a good piece of fan art and buying an entire series without even reading one book. So this one actually ties into the last two that we read as well. What is it in us that like makes us get an entire series on a whim? I don't know, but also guilty. Although I will say I've never really put myself on a book buying ban. I just like buying books too much. Like, it makes me so happy. But also, that being said, like the last couple of months I've been like, I need to put myself on one. I need to put myself on one, and I just have not done it yet. The next one says, buying a book every time I'm anywhere they sell books. Forever adding to my TBR. Yeah. Especially if I go to like an independent bookstore, I just feel like guilty like walking in and not buying something. Like, I feel like I need to like do my part to support local and independent bookstores, you know? I mean, if I'm at like a thrift store or something, I don't really, because they're usually not books that I want. And also too, I guess this is actually another toxic trait of mine. I don't like used books. I am someone that kind of is very precious with my books. I've gotten a little bit more lenient from when I like first started this channel, when I first started buying books, again, because financially I am spending a lot of money on these books, so I want them to stay nice, you know what I mean? If I wear it out myself or damage a book myself, it is what it is, but like I would prefer not to get one like pre-damaged, you know? The next one says, buying a more expensive version of a paperback just because it's taller and more floppy. Again, say it with me, same. Not specifically with like the tall and floppy, but like I have definitely, and I'm currently in a situation where I see another version of a book that I already own and I want to buy that one. But again, I kind of like have a hard time like justifying getting the same book more than once. Like I don't need multiple copies of the same book, but sometimes you just find another cover. Again, circling back to my very first one, I'm a big cover person. So if I find a cover later on that's just like so cool, most likely I will exchange them out. And currently I am very much in a pickle with that. The third book in the Belladonna series is coming out called Wisteria, and the first two books I've purchased as the large floppy paperbacks, which is kind of funny. I got those from the UK because the UK covers I just think are so much cuter than the US ones. And with this third book, I was on the author's Instagram page and she posted a picture and like a reel, I think, of the hardcover. And you guys, like the dust jacket, if it's pretty, I want it, but like if it's got like an actual pretty hardcover, I'm a goner. I'm gonna get it. And the hardcover on Wisteria is so adorable. I need to have it. But my only issue is I already have the first and second book as a paperback, and I don't want to have like a mismatched series, which could also be a toxic trait. I could just get that one book and call it a day, but instead I am now contemplating getting all three of the books in hardcover. Moving on, our next one is also very similar to like the buying the series, but it's got a little bit of a twist on it. Buying an entire series before even starting book one and then end up DNFing book one. I'm so worried that one of these days that this is gonna happen, where I have this series that's been sitting on my shelves for months and months and months. I pick up the first book and I end up hating it. That will be my nightmare, and I hope that day never comes, and I'm so sorry that this has happened to you. Our next one says, buying ebooks on sale for which I already have physical copies. I am not really an ebook person per se. I have a Kindle and I do read on it every once in a while. When I first got it, I was really into the Kindle Unlimited because you got like a free 3-month trial of it. But once that trial was over, I never renewed it. But I do want to though, because I do have a list. I've like started a list on Amazon of all of like the Kindle Unlimited books that I would like to read one day. I mostly use my Kindle for books that have kind of like uglier covers that I don't really care to have on my shelves. But then even with that, I only buy ebooks if I can at least mostly pay for it with the like Amazon digital credits that you get whenever you like make a purchase. Also, too, another reason for me not to have like a ton of ebooks is because I do have some on there that I do actually really want to read, but I always forget that they exist because they're not physically in front of me in my eyeballs, you know what I mean? So we've got a couple more book buying ones specifically, and this next one actually is very similar to the last one. It's buying a physical book just to end up reading it on my Kindle. Again, I don't really do that one myself, but I definitely feel like I'm like behind on like the ebooks and the audiobook thing. Like I am a physical book girly. I'm trying to like inch my way into the other forms of reading, but we're having a hard time. And then the last like specific book buying toxic trait that we have is buying books to celebrate good days and also to cheer me up on bad days. Hashtag buying books 24/7, 365. Same. I actually do this more so with food than I do with books. I am a big emotional eater. Like if I am upset, I need food to help me. If I am happy, we need to celebrate with some food. So I totally get this urge. The rest of the toxic traits are all gonna be just like random and have no like rhyme or reason for the order. So let's go through them. This one is actually not about the person commenting. It's about a coworker that she has where she like works at a library. Here's my coworkers. It's spicier than anything I have. One of my coworkers has 800 books checked out, starting from 2013. I'm definitely classifying this as a toxic book trait. She pays for a storage unit to house all of these. What? I mean, the fact that she has a storage unit to like hold all these books should have been the thing that caught my attention first, but honestly, it was the 800 books. I didn't even know that was allowed. Like, I'm pretty sure when I signed up for my library card, you have to usually go through like a probation period where you can only check out like a few at a time. But then once that's over, I'm pretty sure she did say that there really wasn't like a limit to how many books that you can check out, but that's probably because they're not actually expecting someone to check out 800. How is this possible? I'm guessing because some of them she does say starts in 2013 that like at this point, some of those or a lot of those she's just paid for at this point, so they're hers. but like that is crazy. Next up, this one also kind of made me laugh. This one says, I judge other people's shelves. Like the rainbow thing would drive me crazy. Author and genre is the only acceptable organizational method. And I will say I don't really necessarily judge people, I guess, on like their bookshelves, but I definitely am also with you on like I don't like the rainbow shelves. But I do think I judge a little bit because I will say a lot of people's bookshelves look very, very similar. And I feel like there's not a whole lot of like uniqueness within bookshelves. Not that there's anything wrong with that. If that's like the aesthetic that you like, go for it. Personally, obviously, this is my aesthetic. I kind of like an earthy, vintagey kind of look. I have a lot of like thrifted things that I throw in there, some plants and stuff. To me, aesthetically, that is the most pleasing. And I do actually agree that if I had like all the books in the world, I would prefer to do kind of like a genre or an author type of organization. I definitely do author. Like if I have one book by an author, all of the books are clumped together. When I first originally did my shelves, I did them all separated and it drove me nuts. And I originally did want to do it by genre as well, but I just don't have enough books / the majority of my books all consist of like 2 genres. So there really wouldn't be much point to that. Next up we have this one that says starting a book and getting a chunk in, and then starting another book and getting a chunk in, rinse and repeat. Currently reading 5 books according to Goodreads. Literally up until the beginning of this year, I never understood how people did this. I always just like pick up a book and I read it all the way through until it's done. Start 2024, I don't know what happened, but I ended up randomly realizing one day that I was in the middle of 5 books. I think it's honestly because of this channel, because I do like reading vlogs and things every once in a while, and like, you know, I just gotta read things for posts and stuff. And then all of a sudden I'm in the middle of several books and I don't know how I got there, you know? It just happens sometimes. This one also made me laugh because I literally do this every month. This one says, consistently making a monthly TBR, knowing I'm a mood reader and won't be following it. It's the thought that counts, right? I sure hope so, because I literally, again, I do this every single month. As we know, I do a TBR video every single month and I love doing them. They are some of my favorite videos to film. It's just like playing a game every single month and I love it. But I do have a really hard time actually sticking to the books that I end up pulling. I don't think I've done a single month where I've read every single book on the TBR. A couple of times I've gotten like really close. I've read at least the majority of them. And last month I read like half, which I was proud of, but the majority of the time I literally read like 1 or 2 of them. Next one says, being a professional DNFer. I'll DNF in less than 10 pages. For every book I've read, there was at least 5 DNFs before getting there. I will never understand how people make themselves suffer through a book they don't like. As someone that is a professional un-DNFer, or a not DNFer, a non-DNFer, whatever you want to call it, I am definitely not someone that DNFs books very often. I think in my lifetime, I've only DNF'd like a handful, and that is purely because I think I'm just easy to please. I don't really venture outside of the genres that I know and love very often, and whenever I do, that is when I typically find a DNF. But then also too, again, because I do buy the majority of the books that I end up reading, there is an element of guilt to like, I spent money on this, so I have to read it. Generally, I've given a book at least 100 pages of a chance before I've DNF'd it. So that's my explanation for my behavior. But also like kudos to you for like knowing exactly what you like and like not wasting your time on books that you don't like. Second to last one that we have is cracking spines and dog-earing pages. And this one made me laugh because I feel like it is one of those like very common, like unpopular book toxic trait kind of things that people talk about. And it is definitely something that I do not do either of. Again, kind of what I was saying earlier, I am very kind of like precious with my books, and there's no way in the world you will find me purposely bending a page. I can't do it. I don't judge anyone for doing it, but like I personally just could never. And then as far as like the cracked spines, again, I'm pretty precious with my books. I am not as bad as I used to be, but I still try to avoid that specifically as much as possible. But there's just certain books that are just like bound too tightly and there's just no way around it. Specifically, A Court of Silver Flames. That guy is all creased up. Like there was nothing I could do. Nothing I could do. And honestly, it just made me even more mad at that book. Nesta, I just hated. So that book in general just took me a really long time to read, also because it's like massive. And then on top of it, the spine was getting ruined. It made for a very aggravating reading experience. But also this comment made me laugh because literally somebody else wrote basically the opposite of essentially saying that they don't like when people break spines and dog ear pages. So I thought that was kind of funny. And there were a couple of other comments that snuck in after I had already filmed this video and I still wanted to add them. So we're going to go over those ones really quickly. And the first one we have says, enjoying a book, then putting it down halfway done, never to be picked up again. And I've definitely done this a couple of times. These are basically what I consider my soft DNFs. Like, I think about them as books that I might eventually pick up again, but truth is, I probably will not. And then the next one says, sometimes if I'm too impatient or eager to know what's going to happen in a book, I'll start flipping through pages I haven't read yet and then spoiling myself and then get frustrated / upset that I've spoiled myself. It's annoying and something I actively have to work on not doing. Reading on Kindle seems to help since I can't really flip through pages as easily, which is definitely a benefit to a Kindle. Yeah, this is definitely not something that I do. I love surprises, so I would hate to spoil something for myself. Like, a lot of times I don't even read the synopsis for books, and I don't like to watch reviews, like book reviews and things like that on books if I haven't already read them, because I don't want even the tiniest detail spoiled. And then the very last toxic book trait that we have is thinking I don't have a toxic book trait is my toxic trait. I think the professionals call it denial. I wanted to kind of like end the video off with that one just because at the end of the day, this is a judgment-free zone. This was purely just for fun. I hope you guys had fun watching and sending in your toxic traits. I definitely had fun reading them and reacting to them. If you guys enjoyed this video and you want me to do something similar, like reacting to something different, let me know in the comments what you'd like me to react to. And yeah, I think that is everything that I have for this video. I hope you have / have had the most amazing of days, and I will hopefully see you in my next one. Bye.